Hi, good morning, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, from whichever location you are watching this video. So, I am back again, and in this video, we are going to discuss some important keywords or the terms related to AWS Lambda function. So, the first one is the function. A function is a resource that you can invoke to run your code in AWS Lambda. So, basically, function is a actual code block. We can say actual code block where we will put our business logic or the script that we intend to run on with the help of AWS Lambda. Okay, so that is the function. Function is basically, we can consider that it is the actual code block that is called function, what will be executed within the Lambda function. Okay. Second, runtime. Runtime is basically language runtime. Okay, so when we are going to create a Lambda function, we will see on the AWS console, like on AWS Lambda creation page, we will be prompted to select the language runtime. Like it will ask you like in which language we have written our script, whether it is Python, it is Node.js, it is C#, or other supported language. Okay, so we select our runtime. Okay, and based on the selected runtime, AWS Lambda configures its environment in the background. Okay, so that is called the runtime. It can runtime is necessary to for configuring the AWS Lambda, because it instructs AWS Lambda like what environment it needs to create in the background to support our script or the utility. Okay. Third one is event. Event is a JSON formatted document that contains data for a function to process or details of a trigger. We discussed earlier in the previous video, like AWS Lambda function can be invoked by a trigger. A trigger can be any event, like let's say you uploaded a file on S3 storage. Okay, or you want to execute a Lambda function on a scheduled timely basis, like every 15 minutes you want to execute a particular function. Okay, or you want to run a business logic on the hit of a web URL. Okay, that or on the hit of a webhook. Okay, so these are the events. Like, so when trigger happens, like uh, we hit a URL. Okay, we pass some values in the query string or the as an input parameter. Okay, or we uploaded a file on S3 storage. Okay, so some details of the event is being passed to Lambda function in JSON format. Okay, that is called an input request to the Lambda. That is called event. Okay, so you can say say it is input to the Lambda function. Okay, that is in JSON format, that describes the details of the event. Okay, second one is event source or trigger. Like let's say we are developing a Lambda function, like when somebody uploads an image. Okay, the image being uploaded to the S3 storage, AWS S3 storage. Okay, and then Lambda function is invoked on the upload event. So S3 storage, we can say, is an event source or trigger to Lambda function. Right? If we are writing a function, Lambda function, that will be invoked, that is about to be invoked on hit of a webhook or the web URL. Okay, so that webhook or the web URL, the function URL, is a source or event trigger for the Lambda function. Okay, DynamoDB is another AWS service, that is the NoSQL database service from AWS. So let's say if we want to develop any we want to write a Lambda function that is about to be triggered when any new record is being inserted into the AWS DynamoDB table, or any existing code is updated. Okay, then we want to on that event we want to trigger the Lambda function, some logic, like to update some other table based on that, or send some email communication like this particular record has been updated. Okay, so all these like S3 event, upload a file, delete a file. Okay, on SQS queue also, like if any new object has been pushed to SQS queue, then on that event you want to execute any Lambda function, or insert a update activity of record on DynamoDB. So all these are the event sources, right? So there are varieties of other AWS services that works in conjunction of AWS Lambda. All those can become a trigger or event source to a Lambda function. Okay, so that is the point. Downstream resources, like let's assume we uploaded a file on S3 storage, okay, or we updated any or inserted any new record in DynamoDB table. Okay, based on that, you have to, let's say we have to trigger a Lambda function, and that Lambda function is about to update another table or send some email communication, okay, or doing some other activity based on that input. Okay, so whatever downstream resources, like updating a new table, sending some email communication, or uploading the image, process image to some other different location on S3 bucket. Okay, so as an output from the input, based on the input trigger, the Lambda function is updating or giving the output and doing some activity on any other resources. Okay, that is called the downstream resources. Okay, so these are the points. Concurrency is what, like running a Lambda function can run how many requests at a given time, parallelly. Okay, so number of requests that your function is serving at any given time, that is called concurrency. So a Lambda function can run 1,000 requests at a time. That is the reserved concurrency, okay, of Lambda function. It can also be, concurrency can also be increased, okay, but that is on request basis, and that for further we need to connect to the support, or some different plans we need to go. Okay, but standard concurrency limit is 1,000 requests at a time. Environment variables are used to store some key secrets that can be used within the Lambda function, like in C# also, if we are developing any application, the connection string or some keys we store in web config file, right? So even after the deployment, we can change the values, okay, some secrets. So all those kind of variables part that can be stored within the environment variable section of AWS Lambda, so that we can those variables values we can change from the AWS Lambda console. Okay, so environment variables are used for that purpose itself. What are layers? Layers are a part of Lambda function that serves the distribution of mechanism for libraries, custom runtime, and other function dependencies. Okay, let's say we are writing a Lambda function which are consuming some libraries, like if we let's understand it for with an example, like if we are given assignment to process some Excel file, right? Yeah, to generate some Excel file based on some data, some JSON data. Okay, and it's a kind of Excel automation. Okay, some invoice in the invoice format we have to prepare some Excel file. So if you are using some external libraries, like there are some other DLLs or the external libraries we are using for this work. Okay, so in the Lambda function, while we're developing the Lambda function, we have to ship those libraries also with the Lambda function, so that those external libraries or dependencies we can ship in within the layer. Okay, and with the help of that layer, Lambda function leverage those libraries, okay, to generate the output. Okay, So layers are used for that purpose. Okay, for sending the external dependent files or libraries to the Lambda function. Log streams, as well, name defines, like it is used for the logging. Okay, in the Lambda function, if we are writing a code block to trace the errors or some logging informations while function executes, okay, we can use the log streams. We can also view the real-time log scheme while the Lambda function is running. Okay, we can real-time see the streams of the logs. Okay, and stored logs, event logs also. Like if we have put some logging code within the function block, okay, or some let's say you have written a code and you want to catch the exception. Okay, if there is any exception, you want to log that. Okay, so for those purposes, we can use the logs. Okay, and the log streams also for the real-time capturing of the log streams. So these are the keywords and the important terms that we need to be aware while writing the lambda functions. Okay, so in the this is it for as of for now. In the upcoming videos, we will jump into the practical sessions, and we will see. We will do some practicals. We understand the lambda function, working of it with the help of some practical sessions. Like we will see the basic lambda skeleton. Hello world. We will see understand the structure of the lambda, the working of the lambda, and next we will create an lambda function that will be activated, that will be triggered based on some S3 event, like uploading of any new file on S3 or S3 bucket. The function will be triggered. Reading file content from S3. We have uploaded a file on S3 bucket. Let's say it's a content file, okay, and the same time we want the lambda function to be executed and read the content of the text file. Okay, setting some cron job on the with the help of lambda function, like if you want to execute the certain code block or certain activity on some periodical basis, like every 15 minutes or every half an hour. Okay, we want to execute some code or running some utility. So that example we will see in the practical. Invoke lambda function from another lambda function, like we have invoked a lambda function with the help of another lambda function. So it's a function to function communication. So that we will see in the example. How to trigger an email notification on S3 event via lambda function. Okay, so if there is any, let's say for example, like if somebody uploaded a new file on S3 bucket, okay, or let's say you are developing an application, a new user have been registered. Okay, he upload his registration information and his all the details have been uploaded in S3. At the same time, you want a email notification to the administrator. Okay, so we can execute this example also. How to trigger email notification with attachment on S3 event on lambda function. Okay, so with the help of lambda, you can send the email communication also, and you can put some attachment in the email itself. That we can do. There are some lambda layers that we discussed, like if we are using some external libraries that our script is going to use, okay, that we are going to consume with the help of lambda layers. Okay, so these are the practical sessions. Some AI related topics are also there, like we have a paragraph or story, okay, or some speech. So some sentiment analysis using AWS Comprehend. AWS Comprehend is a AI ML library from AWS. With the help of that, we can do some sentiment analysis practical. Okay. Related to that also, it is also with the help of comprehend. We can within the paragraph or speech we can detecting some entities or some nouns. Okay, so that we can do key phrases in the speech text paragraphs. It is also with the help of AWS comprehend. Reading records from DynamoDB tables via Lambda. Okay, so we will see the AWS Lambda example with the help of DynamoDB tables also. Like if any new records have been inserted, updated, then we can trigger the Lambda function. Okay. and do some activities and console logging there. Streaming DynamoDB table changes with the previous and new state in the CloudWatch. Okay, so if there is a if we write a Lambda function connected to DynamoDB tables, in the DynamoDB table, if there is a record is updated, okay, so we can log that what was the previous content and what is the new content. Okay, so that is called the DynamoDB streaming. Okay, so we will discuss I will create another different video for DynamoDB, but for now just understand like DynamoDB is a NoSQL database service from AWS. So in this example, in the practice, we will see a small session, but for understanding DynamoDB in detail, we will discuss the same in a different DynamoDB session. And next one is configuring AWS Lambda function URL as an API endpoint, get, post, and course configuration. Like we can execute the Lambda function with the URL also. Like Lambda function, we can configure a function URL that will give a URL, web URL. We can copy that URL, hit on the browser, and that will be executed. And you can we can configure the API URL in this way that it will work as an API. It will accept the request parameters also in get or post method. And if we are going to consume that this API URL in our different projects also, then there is a cross origin configuration also is needed. Okay, so that we need to configure within the Lambda function console. That we will do. So all these practical sessions are there. So one by one we will see the practical of each of these points in upcoming videos. Okay, so and congratulations, we have completed the complete theoretical and conceptual points of AWS Lambda. From the next video, we will jump into the practical and we'll see how a Lambda function works on the AWS console. Okay, and we will set up the environment. Thank you very much for now. If you like this video, stay connected for next upcoming videos. Thank you.